I'd like to call on behalf of myself and my co-chair Blanca Lopez. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the joint Long Island Railroad MTA committee meeting. Have any public comments this morning?
Today we have 11 public speakers, 6 in person and 5 remotely. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness, we will limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. Again, we have 6 in person and 5 remote speakers, and we will alternate 2 in person and then 2 remote speakers. The first speaker will be Jack Nierenberg, followed by Murray Bowden.
Good morning. I am Jack Nierenberg. I'm the Vice President of Communications and Community Outreach at Passengers United. And with Grand Central opening to the Long Island Railroad, as well as the evident progress that we've seen at Penn Station with the renovations, I think it's about time that we really start to discuss improved wayfinding and passenger information and enunciation at these major terminals. And I know there's a lot of progress that we've seen over the years across the board with the Long Island Railroad and Metro North. And I think it's about time we take it a step further. So what's happening now is we still see that Penn Station, Atlantic Terminal, and Jamaica still have live announcements. And unfortunately, those have become hard to hear at times, and they're not really the most accessible, especially with the information screens, especially with those who have vision impairments as well. And that's why I'm proposing that we install automated announcements at these terminals, Penn Station, Atlantic Terminal, and Jamaica especially. And I'm not talking about the splice announcements that we're seeing elsewhere in the system. I'm talking about text-to-speech, clear audio announcements that would really fit well with the renovations and the new station infrastructure. And we see that elsewhere. We see it in other countries. We see it elsewhere in the country as well. So that's one thing. And secondly, I would like to suggest further improvements to the customer information screens, as they're called, that have been installed in many of the M7s and the M9s. And I would like to address the second committee, please.
Okay.
All right, so to continue with what I was saying, unfortunately, what I have noticed with those information screens is pretty much they're primarily used for advertising and really not much else. And those are on many of the M7s, and they've been pre-installed on the M9s as well. And what I'm proposing, and again, I allude to the trains in Europe a lot, much because I was really impressed with what they've been doing there with their information systems, is that we really install such systems to allow for, so pretty much what I'm proposing is that these displays would continue to provide information about like next stops, what connections there are at these stations, but also information like what tracks they would have to go to. And this could potentially really make it a lot easier for those passengers who have mobility issues to more easily get to their next train. And as well as other information about other connections at these major stations as well. And such technology is attainable. Like I said, we see it elsewhere in the country, and we see it around the world as well. And given that the Long Island Railroad, and this technology could also be used in Grand Central as well, for Metro North as well as Harlem 125th Street with trains stopping there regularly. So this technology is attainable, and I have many more suggestions on how to improve the service and infrastructure, and I'm open to working with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker in person is Mary Bowden, and remotely John Mishno.
Got to stand on a box. I can't see you, Kathy. Kathy, we were at the Botanical Gardens on Saturday. Good show. My wife loves flowers. We wound up close to the railroad tracks, and suddenly the train horn blasts right there. Now, I've stood here many, many times, and I've asked and talked about a lot of things. This time it's different. Kathy, what safety reason is there to sound the train horn at the Bronx station? You've got a public address system there, and there are other stations where you don't sound the train horn. Why in the Bronx, where nobody can complain, do you sound a train horn there? I'd like an answer right now, because you knew it was coming. Yeah. Why do you sound a train horn there? What safety issue is there at the Botanical Garden station that doesn't exist at other stations? What's the safety reason for sounding the horn? If you don't have a reason, then stop sounding the horn at places where you already have announcement that the station is a train coming in. This is the kind of craziness that goes on, and nobody says, why are we continuing to do this? You don't sound a train horn at 125th Street when everybody comes in. What's the difference? Yeah, we're going to go through the song and dance with the two things and blow the horn again. We did that at the first meeting. You didn't listen, or did you get the message? This is about listening, people. This is about understanding what you're talking about. This has gone long enough. Suggestions come from here and they don't come up over there, they don't get fixed. Kathy, if you can't stop, that's the kind of silliness that has to go on, and he keeps blowing it. He knows I'm going to speak twice. The gentleman before me spoke twice. Why did he have to interrupt that way? Because he doesn't get it. And that's symbolic of what has to change around here. That little beep beep is symbolic of what has to change. And until you change that, global warming is going to eat you up. Dave, at the first meeting, yeah, you read me the technically correct, but not the safest. I'm interested in the safest way to do it, not way. The book says you can do this, but it's not the safest way. There's a difference. Because when Bridges and Tunnels gets it correct, then the bus system is going to go, the buses are going to go to 5 to 10% faster because the lines will be better. They can't make you do it, but you can make them do it. Either Danny gets somebody to fix it correctly or get somebody to replace Danny. And if you can't do it, somebody's going to have to replace you too. I know you a long time. I'm going to die pretty soon, so it's up to you guys out there to fix it. Yeah, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because you had a good teacher, and he taught me too. I didn't make all this stuff up. Somebody taught me. The consistency is right here, and Kathy taught me this when she was chief engineer of the Thruway. Consistency and honesty works the best. The less confusion there is, you're permitting aggressive drivers to cut everybody else off because you won't fix the lines. Accidents, road rage, and you wonder why people get mad? When you permit a differentiation because of who they are, global warming is the issue, people. If you don't fix it, there can be no global place for my grandchildren to be. Thanks.
The next speakers are remote John Mishno, followed by Andy Pollock.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
The state, the state of the Mineola LIRR station is a disgrace. While the governor and MTA officials tout the mainline expansion is completed, try telling that to the people who use the Mineola station. It's an ever-changing obstacle course with few entrances and exits from the platforms. And who thought that putting a railing between the platform and the nice bus area was a good idea? You exit the bus or the elevator and can't even walk directly to the platform. Then there's the seating, of which there is none. I recently saw a recently completed shelter with these narrow beams to lean on instead of seats, which I had never seen before until this project. Then there are the numerous safety hazards, like the clear glass that was put between a waiting area and a new staircase. One of my fellow Mineola residents didn't see it at night because it was dark and walked right into it, injuring themselves. All these weekends of no service, and what do we have to show for it? A half-completed station with nowhere to sit and a poor design. And let's not even bring up that there's no way for pedestrians to cross at Willis Avenue, a violation of ADA now taking place for over 1 year. I've looked at other completed stations such as Noy Park, and the same design flaws. Heck, over half of it doesn't even have a canopy. And let's not even get into forgotten Floral Park, a downright dangerous station with deteriorating platforms and unsafe railings that you could fall to the street below. Meanwhile, I look at the renovated stations on that precious Babylon branch, such as Lynbrook, Merrick, and Wantagh, and see plenty of seats and a canopy over 75% of the platform. The waiting rooms even get tables with charging ports. And if your services, and if your excuse for not providing seating is because of the homeless, why are they allowed to congregate here in the first place? Will the main line be better than it was before? Yes, it will be, but it won't be the quality it should have gotten with so many corners cut. And the damage to our community with businesses closing will take much longer to heal if it ever does. Thank you.
Those are lies.
The next speaker is Andy Pollock, followed by Jason Anthony.
Hi, Kathy. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I do apologize. I'm going to make this speech brief because I am in a hurry to get somewhere. So, Kathy, two things I want to bring up this month. Number one, Floral Park. When I was at Floral Park a couple weeks ago, I noticed that one of the platforms has no yellow paint. How is that safe? It's not safe because somebody could easily fall onto the track. That's the other flaw I want to bring up at Floral Park for this month. Okay, next issue at hand is the shutdown. So number one, the main line along with the Hempstead branch should not be shut down this weekend because we have an Islanders game at UBS Arena. I'm calling on John Ledecky to get involved and do something about this. And then second, why is the Port Washington line going to be shut down the weekend of the New York City Marathon? Doesn't make any sense. So that also needs to be rescheduled. And if you're going to have other busing options between Bateside and at least Great Neck, at least cross honor on the Q12 and also cross honor on the N20G. So that's all I have to say for this month. Thank you very much, everyone. I will speak to you all in an hour at New York City Transit.
The next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Kara Girl.
Good morning, Long Island Railroad and Metro North Commuter Rail. Jason Anthony here, speaking in response to the two previous speakers. We should call them the Long Island Railroad privilege. Why privilege? Because one, they want to go to sporting events. First, if the agencies, they're planning to do a service change, they should plan ahead before traveling. Second, my branch is going to be affected by East Side Access. They're not thinking about that. I live 2 blocks away from Atlantic Terminal, Brooklyn. With that said, I will be affected. They won't. That means that during peak, and on weekends, I won't have a 1C ride between Atlantic Terminal, Brooklyn and Hempstead, and between Atlantic Terminal, Brooklyn and Far Rockaway. Why they are complaining so much? They should advocate for riders that travel between Atlantic Terminal, Brooklyn and those branches. This is double standard in fullest display. Let's go to Metro North. On Metro North, I've been to Grand Central these past few days. I've been seeing homeless people in full display. Why is that? This is the same thing that we are seeing in Penn Station. Why? I haven't been seeing the BRC or any of the homeless outreach folks like in Penn Station and GCT. Why was the public called off to witness the press conference that was happening on Saturday between Governor Hochul and the MTA officials? Why? Because we want to denounce the reality that passengers like myself that use the system on a daily basis to the governor directly. Instead, we have to come to these meetings every single month to denounce it to yourselves. That the majority of whom don't use the system, instead use vehicles polluting the air, using tolls, our bridges, our tunnels, and we have now New Jersey going against congestion pricing. What are we going to respond to those across the Hudson that are going against congestion pricing? What are we going to do, folks? And by the way, I'll see you guys in transit.
The next speaker is Carol Girl, followed by Mr. H.
Good morning. I'm Kara Girl, Research and Communications Associate at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. As the seasons change and leaves fall onto the tracks, we're glad to hear that both railroads are sharing best practices to minimize the impacts of Mother Nature on riders. The new laser trains on Metro North, first piloted by the Long Island Railroad a few years ago, are a great example of what's possible when the railroads use shared technology and ideas to solve common issues. The improved Train Time app is another example of how sharing information benefits riders. Being able to toggle between timetables and buy tickets in one place makes life much easier. Collaboration also extends to the communities that you serve, and the First Mile, Last Mile initiative will help increase access and ridership across both railroads. We're excited to learn more about the next steps. We see these as hopeful symbols of increasing synergy between Metro North and the Long Island Railroad. A more integrated approach to fare policy would also provide a more seamless experience. Implementing Freedom Ticket would offer discounted fares for city riders on both railroads, with transfers to the subway and bus 24/7. It would also reduce confusion due to numerous types of tickets available and when they can be purchased and used. To that end, we would also like to see a pilot program implemented where half fares for seniors and disabled riders are extended to morning peak hours. It's clear from ridership patterns that times have changed. Both railroads have seen non-commutation ridership rates and revenues come in higher than expected, especially compared to commutation rates. As the old way of riding changes, so too should the old way of thinking, that morning trains will be too crowded to accommodate these riders. It's confusing to riders when their half-fare discount might apply during the evening peak, but not in the morning. Similarly, travel in the city zones should be available at a Freedom Ticket rate during peak hours on both railroads. Eastside Access and Penn Access will represent a new, more unified future for the commuter railroads. We're glad to see this and hope that fair policy and best practices will continue to be united as well. Thank you.
The next speaker will be Mr. H, followed by Sally Wolf.
Can you hear me, guys?
We can hear you.
Hey, good morning. I'm here to express my thanks and appreciation to all the LIRR employees and the contractors on completing the mainline work. It's been very, very long time coming after all these years of pain and all that, but it's coming in for the better. The stations look much more beautiful than ever, and I like the interior, the artwork, the benches, so everything's going absolutely great. Um, and Florida Park is doing absolutely fine too. I agree. Valley Stream has a lot of issues right now. So let's get to the situation with John Mitchell here at Mineola Station. So yeah, there's still nobody has told me about the situation of, because he's been told 2 times about trespassing into the LIRR parking lot, and nothing has been done about it. What is it going to take? Can't be going into the parking lot, which is a thing for commuters only, and go there and take pictures, because they've been told 2 times it's a private parking lot for riders only. What is it going to take, guys? And then let's get to the situation at Jamaica Station where all these thugs and all these druggies hanging around. It's way worse than Mineola at this point. And also Bayshore. I'm hearing from my brother that the Bayshore LIRR station is bad. There's a lot of homeless, and I think the police from Mineola should be diverted for Bayshore. And you should also be. And I'm glad that you're promoting businesses down there, restaurants, especially in Bayshore, Rockville Center, and all that. But yeah, that's all. I'm looking forward for the future of the LIRR. As for Grand Central Madison, it is going to be very great, and it's going to run every 20 minutes, like the previous speaker said. Like, I don't know what he's talking about, about cutting service from line term. They're going to be running more
your
frequently.
remarks.
Yeah, I will conclude. Just give me 1 second. It's going to be much more frequent service from a line terminal to Jamaica, so there's no big deal. And that's what all the plan works for next weekend. Plan out. There's the Q110, the Q2, the subways to get to the UBS arena, so it's no big deal. I don't know why these people are complaining. For Washington Prince, there's going to be shuttle buses.
Again, please conclude your remarks.
Yeah. So get him arrested, John Mitchell. Thank you so much for your time.
The next speaker is Sally Wolf, followed by Christopher Greif.
Good morning. I'm Sally Wolf. I live in Flatiron. We met last month. I am an immunocompromised New Yorker and train rider who suggested the idea for masked cars or masked sections of cars. I'm back because I've seen no progress, no pilot of what feels like an accessible idea, both logistically and financially. Since I spoke in September, every time I've ridden the Long Island Railroad or Metro North, I've shared my idea with conductors. Many of them share my love for it. They say, yeah, that makes sense. And so here are 3 reasons why. It's cheap. It aligns with Americans' love for independence because everyone can self-select. And it honors well-being, both physical and mental, beyond just COVID. First, it's cheap to pilot. Simple signage like the wheelchair signs. I have ridden the train and looked at those small sections on either end of the cars. 13 seats, that's all I'm asking for to start. Signage, I actually believe research shows people will do the right thing if it's easy. So if there is clear signage that says you need to have a mask to sit in this small area, most people will do it. It actually aligns with your You Do You campaign. It just gives everyone the chance to do them in a section that works for them. Self-selection avoids the politicized conflict from the mandates. No one needs to enforce it in an active way. Lastly, I want to be clear that this suggestion is not just about COVID or just about physical well-being. COVID highlighted the needs of the 3% of Americans who are moderately to severely immunocompromised. Our longtime struggles to feel safe didn't begin with COVID. They were just exacerbated and highlighted. Flu rates now are skyrocketing. And it's not just our physical well-being, it's mental well-being, which is exhausting when we can't feel physically safe. I will conclude by saying last week, the Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, spoke about the importance of mental well-being at work. At work doesn't begin at work, it begins with our commute. Please help us ride safely. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Christopher Greif, followed by Deborah Greif.
Good morning, everyone. Christopher D. Greif here, live in person. I'm not on the screen, I'm here in person. First of all, today I'm here to speak about one very important thing, that it is safety. First of all, I want to thank the MTA police. So, Chief, I want to thank you because at Atlantic Terminal, I'm going to use an example because I do go over there lots of times. We have seen officers with, once in a blue moon, the Department of Mental Health and Mental Hygiene Outreach does get them out at Atlantic Terminal. At least the Atlantic Terminal station is clean. At least I could get on an elevator. It's clean. But at the same time also, I am very supporting with Jano and the mayor and the governor of getting MTA police to come into the subways as well as the railroads, because we need the safety of seeing an officer, just to see if you see something, say something. That is the main key. I'm here to support that because I still travel on the subway and I do see the officers there. Maybe it's not just MTA police, but I do see our local NYPD precinct. I see transit police. But I don't sometimes see in the Nassau County areas the local police stations out there, Nassau or Suffolk. And they should be working with you guys, with the MTA police together, to get the homeless, not to be in the shelters, not to be interrupting train services, because people who pay on the fares on the trains need to get to their destination on time and safe as well. So we can please try to work on those as we deal with the safety of all the trains and all the railroads from Long Island Railroad and Metro North. And as well as on the Metro North, we definitely need to make sure that homelessness is not interfering the service on the Long Island Railroad and Metro North as well. We need to get on and off safely and making sure that we can get to our destination. There are times it might be a little difficult. I know we have to work on the MTA, My MTA app, which we do put it in, but respond time, we do need to work on the respond time a little quicker, because an incident, something comes up, sometimes the intercoms may not work. We just need to make sure that any station's intercoms are working perfectly and quicker. Times 911 does work, but it may be too late. So what I'm asking is for the MTA in here, please work on that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Deborah Greif, followed by Alida Dupree.
Morning. As you know, my name is Deborah Greif, and I'm going to speak today as the chairperson of the Brooklyn Family Support Service Advisory Council. And I'm Brooklyn's member to the statewide. We want the Long Island Railroad and Metro North to please implement fully the city ticket, the $5. Why? We have a lot of workers that go in between to help the families. They're called respite workers or ComHead workers. We need to get them back and forth quickly so that a parent can work or go out shopping. This may seem trivial, but when your child is an adult, but with the IQ age or the emotional age of a 10-year-old and they're 40, you need someone who's trained to watch them. And when they implemented that on the Long Island Railroad, it was very popular in the OPWDD workforce because they were able to get back and forth quickly. Because sometimes they give you you have to go from Queens to Brooklyn. Now, if you get from Jamaica to Brooklyn, it's 15, 20 minutes. But if you had to go through bus and regular subways, it's a 2 to 3 hour trip. So that helps. Also, in reference with the homeless, 99% of them, unfortunately, are mental illness. The mental health laws were changed, and they are not getting the same help that they should be getting. So the mental health laws have to be updated, and that's why there's many issues with people with the homeless. So instead of beating on them, let's see that they get the true help. And please, Kathy, please implement Metro North Care soon, because it's a pleasure when I have to go on Long Island Railroad and I have them bring the plate out, they make sure I'm on and off. I want to make sure I don't have to go looking for anybody in Grand Central. I want to be able to just know that. I find the Metro North Cares person and they can help me get on the trains. Thank you.
The next and last speaker is Alida Dupree.
Alida Dupree for the record. My pronouns are she and her. I'm going to talk about railroad today. I'm looking forward to Grand Central Madison because that way, regardless of which railroad I use, I can enjoy Grand Central. It's going to be very helpful to me because I spend a lot of time on the east side. So let's hope we get an opening date. And electrification is very important. It's going to take building a lot of third rail. And along with other things, electrification, I think, is really essential to improving the state of our railroads, not just in reducing emissions and reducing noise, but in creating a better service. And I still have not made it to New York. I went to Chicago, got to ride on this system called Metra. I've done it a few times and rode on their electric section. It's quite small, but I enjoyed it. I said, well, this is giving me a taste of what I'm going to see when I come back to New York. And I think we have to have clarification about Omni. What will Omni look like on the railroads? How do we do Omni on 67 tracks of Grand Central Terminal? So we need schematics and drawings of what that's going to look like. Because it's obvious on the subway, but I'm still trying to see it on the railroad. Let's make that happen. And ADA for the railroads is essential. We're getting there. How can we get all of these railroad stations accessible? I hope on my next trip that I will be able to use the railroad more often, just as I did in Chicago. Because I believe that the railroad to me is not just about getting somewhere, but discovering things much bigger than myself. And I thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the public speakers for today.
Is that on? Oh, thank you. And thank you to all the speakers. Now I'd like to move on to approval of the minutes. If everyone's had a chance to review, I'd like to entertain a motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. And now I'll address, sorry, Siri, I'm not talking to you. President Rinaldi, are there any updates to the work plans?
No, there are no changes to either work plan.
And now I'd like to invite President Rinaldi to give her reports.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if you had the presentation. Oh, there we go. Okay. Good morning, everybody, and thank you. Records are made to be broken, and post-Labor Day ridership remains strong at both railroads. Following Metro North's pandemic-era ridership records set on Tuesday, September 13th and Wednesday, September 14th, Metro North again set a ridership record on Tuesday, September 20th, and yet again on Tuesday, October 11th, with 192,900 riders, or 74% of pre-pandemic levels. Long Island Railroad similarly has set a bunch of records since Labor Day. On September 7th, and then again on September 21st, with 204,600 riders, which is 71% of pre-pandemic. Ridership has remained strong throughout the month of October, with both railroads carrying 60 to 70% of pre-pandemic levels on weekdays, and anywhere between 65% to 120% on weekends. The third and final section of the Long Island Railroad mainline third track between Coral Place and Hicksville opened on Monday, October 3rd, with Governor Hochul presiding at a ribbon-cutting ceremony in Westbury. This project opened on time and $100 million under budget, and as we've discussed before, it is unlocking huge benefit for Long Island Railroad's customers and operations, especially when taken together with the opening of Grand Central Madison service before the end of this year. With Grand Central Madison service coming into clearer view, our crews are performing safety and security drills. Last week, Long Island Railroad completed its second day of advanced pre-revenue testing, operating 8 trains simultaneously to test out the infrastructure, validate service planning assumptions, and gain experience dispatching the territory. Live emergency drills are planned for 3 weeks in October and November. In fact, there was a tunnel evacuation drill that went off without a hitch on Saturday. It was a great team effort with participation not only from the Long Island Railroad, but also Metro North, C&D, MTA Police Department, the Fire Department of New York, and the NYPD. And I'm sorry, it was Sunday. Finally, Long Island Railroad crews continue to go through a federally mandated process known as physical characteristics training. Crews need to learn the location of every signal and switch between tracks, as well as many other physical characteristics of the new route, such as emergency egress locations, tunnel grades, and station configurations. Train crews have been conducting this training for several months to familiarize themselves with this new stretch of Long Island Railroad territory. A quick update on the new GCM schedules. As a result of requests for retention of express service to Penn Station from customers on the Port Washington branch during the public outreach process over the summer, MTA and Long Island Railroad met with elected officials from that area, including Senator Anna Kaplan, Assemblymember Gina Solitti, Town of North Hempstead Supervisor Jennifer DeSena, and Council members Marianne Dalamonte and Veronica Lurvy. The delegation recognizes that construction of additional track space in the Port Washington yard will be necessary in future capital programs to allow for a future expansion of service on the Port Washington branch. But at the same time, at this time, railroad officials were able to look at the schedules and find ways to create express service within the envelope of existing train and track capacity constraints. So we were able to add 3 morning and 3 evening rush hour Penn Station express trains serving Port Washington, Plandome, and Hassett and Great Neck. These new express trains are part of the overall 41% service increase that will take effect along with the opening of Grand Central Madison. While the Long Island Railroad service increases are taking effect later this year when the new service opens, earlier this month, Metro North restored several half-hourly weekend Hudson Line trains, 6 on Saturdays and 4 on Sundays. These trains had been suspended with the July 10th schedule change to support 3 essential state-of-good repair infrastructure projects between Cortland and Cold Spring. And 2 weeks ago, Metro North began operating its popular Leaf Peeper seasonal weekend trains on the Hudson Line to take New York City area riders out to the incomparable scenery of the Hudson Valley and Neil Zuckerman's backyard. Weather permitting, there are 5 extra trains on Saturdays and 4 extra trains on Sundays, which complement our normal hourly service. Leaf Peeper ridership was strong the first 2 weekends, with most trains reporting passenger counts between 70 and 90% of capacity. We're also going to be operating extra service for the holidays, and we'll talk about that in a little bit next month. While both railroads share the fundamental mission and commitment to improving customer service, never has collaboration between the 2 sister railroads been more pronounced. Operations teams are sharing ideas and learning from each other in unprecedented ways, and we're going to be highlighting examples of collaboration between the railroads as part of my monthly committee report. So one of the public speakers actually kind of, broke the news ahead of me, but I'll say it anyway. This month, I want to highlight Metro North's adoption of laser train technology for the first time this year. This is a technology, as this committee well knows, was pioneered by the Long Island Railroad in 2018, and it's poised to become an important part of Metro North's efforts to combat leaf season slip slide and flat wheels. As this committee knows, as autumn sets in and leaves fall from trees onto the tracks, the detritus of wet leaves and slimy pectin residue builds up on the railway tracks, especially on days like today. The laser train works by using high-intensity lasers to remove the debris, requiring only 1 pass to leave a smooth, clean rail behind. Additionally, both the Long Island Railroad and Metro North operate high-pressure rail washer trains to combat slip-slide conditions. These water trains essentially complement the laser train. Both railroads are solving the same problem for maximum customer benefit. Long Island Railroad is going to build upon the Long Island Railroad's laser train innovation by piloting it at higher speeds. And the good news for today is that the laser train is actually sitting in customs, ready to be picked up. We expect to be able to deploy at some point soon. Couple of the things that I want to highlight from Metro North's track program quarterly update. This is, again, another shout out to Mr. Zuckerman. If you look at the first picture, these are the installation of anti-trespass panels at Brewster Highway Station. This has been a pet project of Neil's for a long time, so I'm very happy to be able to highlight that today. We're also installing them near the Harlem River Lift Bridge. The installation of friction hydraulic bumping blocks on track 17 and 18 in Grand Central, rail installation on the Wassaic branch, Nanuet platform repairs, yay Ramsey, and the Shea Road bridge repair on the Port Jervis line. I attended a Long Island Railroad Connect With Us forum at the Merrick, Long Island Railroad Station on Wednesday, September 28th. Representatives from various departments, both at the Long Island Railroad and at MTA, were on hand to answer questions from commuters on topics such as the new service to Grand Central Madison, the upgraded train time app, the completion of the third track, service to Elmont UBS Arena, and more. These customer-facing events are a great way to find out what is on the minds of our customers while they're in our system, and we're going to be doing more of those throughout the year. I'll be at Metro North's Tarrytown station tomorrow morning, bright and early at 6:30 for our next event. Finally, both railroads participated in a series of events surrounding National Rail Safety Week, which was the week of September 19th through the 23rd, in order to raise awareness of rail safety and help the public know how to keep themselves safe around stations, grade crossing, and rights of way. Participation in the National Week-Long Education Campaign as part of both railroads' TRACS programs. Employees of both railroads were joined by members of the MTA Police, New York State and Connecticut Departments of Transportation, the FRA, Operation Lifesaver, and the Suicide Response Crisis Center. The public was encouraged to wear red on Friday, September 23rd for Red Out for Rail Safety Day and post photos on social media. This is the end of my monthly report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions on the report? President Ronaldo, do you have any additional information items for both
Well,
railroads?
I'm actually going to turn the mic over to Rob Free first to give the Long Island Railroad operations update, and then Justin Bonashek, who will give the Metro North operations update.
Good morning. Monthly on-time performance for the month of September was 96.3%, and year-to-date as of September was 96%, both of which are above goal of 94%. All 11 branches operated at or above goal for the month and year-to-date. Major events which resulted in delays of 10 or more trains. There were 6 for the month of September, the most significant of which was on September 7th, which was a track condition in the vicinity of Plandome Station on the Port Washington branch during the midday. This event impacted on-time performance by 0.08%. Excuse me. For our fleet performance, our MDBF for the month of August was 190,896 miles, and year-to-date as of August was 217,439 miles. Again, both above goal of 190,000 miles. For service delivery, we completed 99.7% of our trips, both for the month-to-date and year-to-date. And finally, as we continue to upgrade our system, some work that'll impact operations, this upcoming weekend will represent the final shutdown of the main line, scheduled anyway, this weekend, and this is to support Queens interlocking system upgrades. In November, there will be 3 shutdowns between Bayside and Port Washington. Bus service will be provided, This work is to complete the Great Neck Pocket extension for Grand Central Madison service. And on November 12th and 13th, there'll be concrete tie work on the Hempstead branch, which bus service will be provided as well. And finally, as we approach the holidays, as Kathy had mentioned, we'll be providing extra holiday service for Thanksgiving Eve on Wednesday, November 23rd. That will be 11 extra eastbound trains early afternoon, and on Thanksgiving Day, we'll run our Thanksgiving Day program, which will be 6 trains pre-parade and 11 trains post-parade. That concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, good morning. On-time performance for the month of September was 97%, above goal at 94%. Year-to-date was also above goal at 97.1. Regarding the fleet, the MDBF for the month of August was 172.5 thousand miles. Year-to-date mean distance between failures was above goal at 210,000 miles. In addition to the service mentioned by President Rinaldi, we will also be operating our Thanksgiving week service plan. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, additional afternoon getaway trains will be operated. On Thanksgiving, additional inbound morning service will be provided for customers going to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and additional service will also be provided throughout the day for holiday travel. And then on Friday, a special schedule will be operated. Customers can check the train time app for the latest schedule information. This concludes the report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. President Rinaldi, have any additional information items for the railroad?
Yep, we have the
Oh,
Long
safety.
Island Railroad Safety Report by Lori Ebbinghazen.
Good morning. So our safety performance can be found on page 21 in your book, and we're reporting on our safety performance with the rolling average through August of 2022. Our reportable customer injury rate decreased from 3.92 to 2.42 per million customers, and our reportable employee lost time injury rate increased from 3.97 to 4.13 per 200,000 hours worked. I'd like to bring to everyone's attention, we are continuing to collaborate with across departments and with our labor partners to identify hazards in the yards to support employee safety. This month we're at Montauk, Greenport, Patchogue, Speonk, and Huntington. The results of those safety inspections and engagement with our employees is then shared within the departments and with engineering to address any actions that need to be taken. I also want to extend an invite again to all of our schools and community groups. We've changed it up again for our school safety contest that we've been doing since 2015. This year we invite you to submit crosswords, puzzles, word searches, all sorts of activities, again, to help us get that safety message out and the importance of safety in the communities that we serve. So we welcome those entries, and those are due by December 15th. And we continue to partner with MTA Police to do Operation Lifesavers this month. You can find us at Bethpage and Syosset. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Lori. And now we have Shelley Prettyman to give the Metro North Safety Report.
Okay, good morning. Metro North Safety Report is on page 28 of the committee book. And for the 12-month reporting period ending August 2022, the reportable customer injury rate was 2.14 per 1 million customers, which is up from 2.11 in the prior 12-month reporting period ending August 2021. Slips, trips, and falls remain the most frequent cause of injury. The FRA reportable lost time employee injury rate was 2.14 per 200,000 work hours for the current reporting period, and that's up from 1.90 in the prior period. So this month, Metro North Safety Outreach and Education Program, TRACS, will be participating in some local Halloween events. So 2 examples are the Miracle League of Westchester's A Very Special Halloween event on October 29th. That's in Hartsdale, New York. And the Danbury Railway Museum's Pumpkin Patch Train event on October 30th in Danbury, Connecticut. And TRACS for Metro North is also holding our 5th annual rail safety contest. And for contest details, those are available on the Metro North TRACS website. On the MTA webpage. To support suicide prevention awareness, Metro North continues to deliver question, persuade, refer training to employees. And additionally, the digital posters on display throughout the territory have been updated to include the 988 suicide and crisis lifeline number, and those updated posters should appear in rotation shortly. That concludes my report. I would be happy to answer any questions.
I have a quick question. That's okay. Just on that note, Shelley, with respect to the training that's given to employees, how often and what type of training is it? If you could just expand on that.
Well, the training is offered typically a couple of times a month, and so what that training does is it trains employees who are out on the front lines with customers to recognize the signs of someone in crisis and to understand how to respond and how to connect them with the help they need. And it's also voluntarily available to all employees. It's open to all employees.
Thank you.
You're
I've
welcome.
actually taken the QPR training. I found it to be very eye-opening with respect to this, obviously a very challenging issue for all the MTA agencies. I mean, we would certainly be happy to make it available to any committee members who might be interested in seeing what the training looks like. It really is very interesting.
I would love to.
Yeah,
Thank you,
we
please.
could absolutely arrange for that.
That'd be great.
I'll follow up on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is, I guess, a pleasant sign. Pleasant may not be the best adjective, but a positive sign that I can bring back the topic of safety, because the last couple of years with COVID, ridership, financial challenges, I've been focusing on weightier issues, more existential issues. But a minor question, I see a 13% uptick in employee injuries at Metro North. That's your 1.9 to 2.14, clearly lower than your historical numbers pre-COVID, but an uptick is what we would call an emerging trend. And those are usually worth looking at. So could you give us a little information? Is that people doing more work, more workers out on the tracks and doing more things, or is there something else happening that is accounting for that increase?
Well, we have had a challenge with the numbers needing to be updated as the Kronos timekeeping system has been, as the hours have been updated, as those issues with the system have been resolved. But we do see an uptick in the actual number of incidents. So I agree it's something that we've needed to continue to focus on. One thing that we do is after every single incident, we actually go out and look at the circumstances of that incident. Members of the Office of System Safety partner with the operating department management to look at what happened and to determine what the root cause was and to identify any issues that need to be resolved. Every time, and the same is true for customer injuries. So anytime there's a potential issue or a customer, for example, trips on a platform, we go out and we look and we make sure there's nothing there that needs to be resolved by our structures department. And Maintenance Way and Transportation are great partners with the Office of System Safety on that. So after every single incident, we go out and we look and say, okay, is there something that needs to be addressed here? We also look at the trends, and we will identify trends and issues that may be occurring among employees, whether there's, for example, slip, trips, and falls remain the top category. We saw a little uptick in overexertion incidents, so we'll work with the operating departments to see, well, what kind of incidents are we seeing overexertion with? Is there an issue that we might be able to resolve with some additional training? Is there something to do with the use of the equipment where we can partner with our training department to follow up and help prevent future causes of the injury? So the challenge is, of course, that it's never just one thing. There's a lot of different root causes, but that's how we tackle it, by looking at each incident and then partnering with the departments to come up with a resolution that'll help us continue to work those numbers down. So it continues to be a challenge, but we're staying on top of it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Board member?
Yeah, yes, I know we're still waiting for an official policy from the MTA regarding motorized vehicles and things of that nature on the trains. However, I did notice that New York Lifesavers, who I believe you have a relationship with, has posters of people, riding these vehicles. One was clearly taken in Penn Station, someone riding a bicycle, and then there was another on one of our suburban stations of someone on a scooter. That has nothing to do with what we might allow or not allow on the trains itself, but it is a safety message, and that we should be putting those posters up now. That's my opinion on both railroads. Again, it's a safety issue, and they should not be riding it. And we've been getting a lot of complaints, at least I've been getting a lot of complaints from riders about, these guys hop on these vehicles and they're riding through Penn Station, they're riding, through Babylon. So I think it's something we should start working on now. Just an opinion.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Safety? Move on, Chief.
Yeah, the Chief Mullet's report.
Thank you, President Rinaldi. September, we had a pretty good month. We had 16 felonies for the entire system. More than half of those were grand larcenies. We had 4 felony assaults. Only one was a member of our MTA employee family. The numbers are trending well. In response to one of the commenters about reaching out to outside agencies, we're working very hard to talk to all our municipal leaders, whether they be mayors or police departments or district attorney's office. We understand that this is a really big piece of us giving an entire end-to-end solution as far as effectiveness. Safety and crime continues to be very low on the commuter railroads. Both each railroad, it's less than 1 per million riders. So we're happy with that. Obviously, we want to make sure that we can get it down to 0 as best we can, and that's what our goal always is. But at this point, it's just hovering around both the Metro North and the Long Island Railroad of 1 per million riders. That's the end of my report.
I will. Sure. Board member?
You mentioned the category of grand larceny. Can you give me an idea of what a typical incident is like when you have a grand larceny on our lines?
For this month, we had 2 grand larcenies with relation to electric bikes. And that's something that we're not seeing before because this is a relatively new phenomenon, but those electric bikes are sometimes $1,000 or $1,500. So that'll start contributing to our grand larceny numbers. There's also cars, if they're stolen. We had one this month that was stolen for grand larceny, and a lot of it is off of sleeping passengers. We had 2 of those as well.
Vinny, you didn't take the electric bikes, did you?
I didn't I will soon, though, Sam.
Board member?
I want to compliment Chief Mueller on what he said. He's reached out to different departments. And don't forget, my department especially, in Nassau County is the first responder, as well as Suffolk Police. I compliment you regarding reaching out and implementing the K-9 program. Very, very important. It was a shame that New York City only had given us 2 openings for the class. Nassau County gave you 4. Chief, thank you for reaching out and making it happen. Secondly, it's a disgrace that we have to take MTA policemen, men and women, and put them on the transit and the subway. What about protecting our railroads? We're taking them away from their job, and we are paying fellow board members. The MTA is paying New York City Police Department to protect the transit. That's the agreement. And now we have to pay in this crisis? I mean, it's just money, 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 money. But when we're taking away men and women from Metro North, Grand Central, and their other duties on Long Island, it's going to hurt us. Not right now. It could be the future. We must correct it. Our chairman, CEO, which is, of course, poor governance, he should have stopped that and stood up and said, we got to protect the MTA first. We're paying New York City. Let them get more police and hire them. And I say the next thing, Chief, and to all our members, we need more police. We should start hiring more. You have plenty on your application list. And the Nassau County Intelligence and Police Academy will welcome you in our next class. That's David Mack saying it, okay? So as many as you want, you will have it in the next class. So I thank you for being proactive and moving out and trying to help. But again, we should not be in the subways. We should be on our stations. And another compliment, your patrols on Long Island Railroad and Metro North. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Board member?
Yeah, first of all, I second the call from Brother Mack for Nassau County Intelligence. I think it's high time for Nassau County Intelligence. We should be acting on Nassau County Intelligence. What did Churchill say? It was a great idea? Or no, that was Gandhi, right? That it was Nassau County Intelligence. It's a brilliant suggestion. But let me ask about the grand larceny stuff. It seems to be largely a function of how valuable the thing is that's stolen or lost. How many misplaced cell phones, either somebody fell asleep, it fell out of his pocket, somebody lifted it off or he got up and left, later reported as a theft. How many of those grand grand thefts are cell phones.
Out of the 16, I think there were 4. And of those, one of the things we're trying to do to fix that, Mr. Brown, is to make sure that we're checking lost property. Because one of the things I think we need to do a better job is it's such a big, vast system, and people invariably leave their items there. But it's important for us to constantly check our property evidence, because there are a lot of good-hearted people out there that will find a phone and then hand it in, but we have to make sure that we make those adjustments with the crime statistics. The other thing is we're going to be working on, especially with the bikes, crime prevention through environmental design, to make sure those bike racks are in a visible place, in a place that makes sense to discourage theft or give us a better chance at catching the people that will try to do it. So the bike rack issue is a big deal for us, and we're making sure that we position those exactly where they need to be. Thank you.
Again, no cynicism this time. On the safety statistics, the safety statistics look very, these are very small numbers too. Like the 4 is a much smaller number than I perceive it to be. So the law of small numbers applies. These statistics will swing back and forth because they're such small numbers, which is a good thing. We want to keep it small numbers. But on the customer safety stuff, this statistic looks stable and going down on customer assaults, but and again, it's as small numbers, but it seems the employee assaults numbers are coming up. Are you concerned with the divergence of these two statistics? Is there some reason why employees are falling afoul of some sort of violence to a greater extent than the customers?
Not to a greater extent. Like, for example, this month we had 4 felony assaults for the entire both commuter rails, and one of them was an MTA employee, a conductor. We are being very proactive in terms of making sure that we see these cases all the way through for all of our MTA employee family members. Not just them, but everybody, of course, looking for patterns. But one of the big cornerstones of how we're trying to do things is to really constantly advocate wherever the prosecution is going to take place, whatever county it takes place, to make sure that we're following the offender all the way through the process, making sure that we can generate victim impact statements on behalf of the victim, talk to the DAs about consequences, especially when we're seeing repeat activity. So the numbers look good as far as that is concerned, and I think you're going to see good numbers going forward with, some of the train patrol work we're doing, because we're having more and more conversations with our conductors and the other workers on the Long Island Railroad and Metro North about how to handle things.
I'll just quickly talk a little bit about safety and the use of MTA PD in the subway system. We recognize at this moment that there's a lot of problems in the subway system and perceptions of issues out there, and we clearly, that is important to our customers and to the MTA in a huge way, and we want to directly address that issue. Secondly, degradation of security across the entire network is not an option for us, and so we're making sure that the MTA family of Long Island Railroad and Metro North, as well as bridge and tunnels, remain strong, and that the security in those organizations in those areas continue to grow. To that end, with the use of the MTA PD is being largely put into locations where they already have a presence at either the Penn Station, Long Island Railroad platforms there, on the Metro North platforms of GCT, Atlantic, and stuff in Jamaica already. So it's a natural extension to be able to use that expertise from those locations and extend that into the subway systems at those platforms. Simultaneously, we've asked and received agreement from the state police to come in and backfill some of the missions that the MTA police were doing, so that we do not lose any security for the Long Island Railroad or the Metro North Police. So we're going to watch it very, very closely. It's important to us. It's important to the city. It's important to the MTA that we get all the security right. So that's what we're trying to do right now.
Thank you for the party line.
Excuse me. Board member?
Question, have you been getting any reports of any catalytic converter thefts in our parking lots?
I don't think we had any for the month of September, but we have had them in the past. And it's a real problem throughout, especially in the outer boroughs and also all over Long Island. It's, you know, the issue with the catalytic converters, if people aren't familiar, cadmium is one of the most valuable minerals there are. It's even more valuable than gold. And so this seems to be, there's a lot of incentive to go out and steal catalytic converters. It really only takes between 30 and 45 seconds to get under a car and cut one out. There are some initiatives going on in different counties where they want to etch into, you know, where you know, to identify the actual catalytic converter. We don't have that right now, so we can recover it, but it's been a continuing problem.
Yeah, the reason I brought that up is because the average commuter's car is parked in one of these stations for 10 hours, and thieves tend to know that kind of stuff, so they have a large window. And they're getting brazen enough that they're starting to do this stuff during broad daylight. So I commend you guys for your work because you got a lot of territory to cover.
It's all the more reason about, you know, that point about outreach and working with the Nassau County PD and the Suffolk County PD and those local police departments that, you know, there's a lot of dovetailing that can go on there where, you know, we're watching and they're watching and we're comparing notes and seeing what the trends and the distance statistics show us. So that's another example of really important partnership.
Board Member Mack? Oh,
Yeah.
I'll get to you. Next.
You're 100% right. And that's just another reason why we should not take our men and women and put them into into doing the job of the New York PD. And Chief Mueller, I again compliment you for your workmanship with the other departments. Very important. And I just, again, I disagree with your partner next to you. Of course, that's the party line. But when you have patrols and police and the visibility, you won't have thefts or crime. The only deterrent in my 60 years of experience is a blue uniform.
I recognize my co-chair.
Thank you, Co-Chair Chu. Chief, thank you very much for your report. Just a question. Last month, you talked about the program you want to start in January to have more MTA police in the railroads. And I was wondering now, if there are MTA police patrolling subways, is that going to impact or complicate this launch in January?
It will not. We have every intention of maintaining that train patrol program. We know it's very important to this board. We know it's important to the Long Island Railroad and the Metro North Railroad. That program is going to remain.
Thank you. Safety of our train riders is extremely important, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Board Member Zuckerman?
Just a question of fact, Chief. How many police officers are being reassigned from Long Island Railroad, Metro North, Grand Central, Penn Station to the subway? I just want to quantify what Mr. Mack is raising because I don't have a sense of the magnitude.
Right now, we're putting it together because, as you know, the announcement was made this weekend, but a lot of it is going to be overtime to start with so that we don't compromise what we're doing on the commuter rail, which we know is our core business. So we're going to, a lot of it is overtime at this point. We're still starting to build out the program and the plan to make sure we have everything covered.
Great.
It's probably a very hard question to answer. Are there cameras in any of these parking lots? Are they controlled by the localities or us?
If it's MTA property and the cameras are on our parking lots, we control. Obviously, you know, the MTA has a very robust program to expand cameras, but you know, to your point, it's a great asset to leverage as far as safety and identifying and looking at trends and things like that. So when and where they are, we make use of those.
Can you lobby for your colleagues in the different departments to ask for funding to do this?
I certainly would, but I would tell you they're already lobbying. We all are lobbying. I think that we recognize the value.
I'm sorry, advocating. We're not allowed to lobby. Advocating.
Okay. I think that all police executives throughout the tri-state area are advocating because they see the value of video. You know, video is it's a great deterrent. It's a great investigative piece, almost to the point now where people without video, it's like it didn't happen, and that's not true either. But it's not the whole piece, but it's a very, very, very valuable piece.
Thank you.
Board member?
So just two real quick things for me, and maybe it'll transition us a little bit in the topic. But, Brother Brown brought up the issue of the assaults on the employees. And he raised it first. I just want to thank the chief. We are making progress with these train patrols. And I think what we really can do here, if we wanted to help, while the committees that are put together to implement the train patrols, is just support the resources needed to make sure that these patrols keep going. And just a new topic, I asked Kathy of this week, but I feel the need to share it with the committee. I'm requesting that we take a really good look at the need for a gating program at UBS Arena. The crowds are there now. It's different. We have traffic in both directions now, train service in both directions. I was sent a lot of pictures over the weekend. And the biggest reason why you need gating is certainly to ensure the fare collection, but we also have to control the crowd. So not that the chief needs, more demand on him, but we'll need MTA police present at these gating locations, and we need to have a gating location set up at Elmont to make sure that we get every fare and we keep those platforms under control. So when a game ends all at once, an overtime game or something, it'll make it much safer for our customers.
I just, on your first point, I just wanted to share anecdotally when I took I think it was 8:58 train in last night from on the Babylon line, and I just in my car, the conductor in my car, very with a lot of dignity handled a homeless man that came onto the train, and then she expertly dealt with a panhandler, and then we had a chance to have a conversation, and I specifically asked her about how she felt about the train patrols, and she was very encouraged by it. So it was just it was great for me to hear that the conductors and personnel are excited about it and are really already feeling good about the prospect of feeling safer in their employment, which everyone should have the opportunity to do so. So, Board Member Mack?
Yeah, once again, I hate to be.
Are you going to compliment the chief again? Is this the try? I think I lost count. Is anyone at the bingo?
The chief is doing well, but you brought up the point. Why should we be taking our men and women away from doing and helping us on Metro North and Long Island Railroad? And we need more men and women. Recruit more.
Not to be outdone, I want to compliment you as well, Chief. I don't want to get shut out. Are there any more questions, Board Member Brown?
Yeah, I want to compliment the chief. However, I've always rejected the sort of suburban belief that mass transit brings crime to Long Island and Westchester. I've always found that was sort of a ridiculous conundrum. But people do travel between the two locations. Now, I believe last time the number I saw was like 75% of the commuter rail riders get on the subway. So if subway crime is the greatest fear, that's probably driving down our ridership, as far as I can tell. So having some back and forth on the personnel, and certainly in the communications level, which is 3/4 of the job, is communicating with each other. Certainly on that level, back and forth between the city, and this is probably the only agency that brings together the suburbs and the city. And really the question is, of course, if you took all the people off the Long Island Railroad and Metro North, and our people are as comforted by seeing a cop as everybody is comforted by seeing a cop. If you took all of them off and put them on the subway because subway crime is first of all, I don't think it would make any difference for subway crime, but the people on the railroad would be lost and wouldn't have any. So we have a greater presence of police now than we used to on the commuter rails. Well, giving commuter rail riders confidence that when they get off the train in Grand Central and Penn and jump on the IRT, that they're going to have a safe ride.
Sure.
Good show.
I actually am speaking now so I can say the following. I'd like to affiliate myself with Brother Brown's comments, because I feel like I don't get called a brother enough, and I think you call David Mack brother, I'd like to be called brother too, so I want to call you a brother right back at you. But well, I was when I worked at Gorstides in 1987, I was a union member, very proud. My paycheck was quite small. I remember asking what that line was. They said, "That's the union." I said, "Do I have a choice?" I said, "No, you don't." I said, "Okay, I'm in. I'm in." Anyway, I joined this board many years ago, and I was fortunate to be taught by a really talented leader here, Tom Prendergast. And Tom would say often, it's one system. It's one system. Now, I affiliated myself with that statement because at the time, and to this day, I still try to advocate for things in our small little county. And if you treat it like one system, you think that, well, Putnam County deserves this as much as, not dollar-wise, but proportionally as much as, Nassau or Queens or Richmond or Kings County, et cetera. And so I do, though, agree it's all one system in terms of perception, too. And the more we can work together to figure out how to protect that system as one system, I'm all in for that. So
we're
thanks,
one
Norman.
system, we're all brothers and sisters in one system.
We are all brothers, sisters, or whatever else you want to be.
Board Member Glucksman?
Before you match.
Brother Glucksman?
Before you utter those magic words asking for adjournment, I just wanted to advocate for the pilot program for seniors and disabled to be able to purchase Metro North and Long Island Railroad tickets in the morning peak. Thank you.
I was just going to say, I know it's not a motion, but I would definitely second Mr. Glucksman's.
Great. Any more questions or comments on this topic? I think it's a high time to move on then. Are there, President Rinaldi, are there any additional information items?
There are. So we have two joint information items, the 2022 preliminary budget, which is out for public comment, as well as the Long Island Railroad Metro North PTC project update. Dave Malillo and Paul Dietland are here in case there's any questions about that. Hearing none, we will move along to the Long Island Railroad information items. We have the fall track work programs and holiday service and the MOW quarterly update. The aforementioned Mr. Dietland is here to answer any questions if there are any. Okay. Moving on to Metro North information items. Similarly, we have the track program quarterly update, and Mr. Malillo is still here, ready to answer any questions that you might have. Okay. We have no procurements, no action items this month. The other reports are in the book in case there's any questions. Hearing none, I think we're done.
Brothers and sisters, I'd like to entertain a motion to close. First, seconded by, so moved.